Testing, testing, one, two, three. Excuse me. Bear with me. I'm just trying to see that the my website is also streaming. Yep. All right. Looks like everything's good to go. So last time we had more technical difficulties. The pen wasn't working. We jumped into 3ds Max and we worked on this hat, getting this hat right. We also have this turtle hat, and later on we're gonna, I guess, decide between them. Um, this may be a little bit too much shredder for my taste. Um, right now I'm leaning towards the currently generic Asian canonical hat. What else did we do last time? Last time we did a bit of I explained my ZBrush troubleshooting process in a kind of a rambling way as per usual. Everything live is going to be a bit rambling until I get good at it. I'm going to sum up and express it more coherently in a properly produced video. So look for that coming up. So what else did I do in preparation for today's stream? I got a reference mesh off of ArtStation. I purchased it, and of course, if you're an artist, you're telling me that's cheating, and that's fine because I'm not an artist. I'm a game developer, and I want to get this done ASAP. So I chose between a couple different base models, and this is halfway between. I mean, in terms of muscular, it's definitely trending towards the superhero, right? But in terms of proportions, it's midway between superhero and realistic. It's about the appropriate number of heads high. If you compare it with other more realistic male models, the legs are a bit longer and the torso a bit shorter, while maintaining the same structure in just about every other regard. So it's a nice compromise between being, completely unrealistic and being a little more heroic than your average male model. So that's where we're at. And today we're going to sculpt some of the undergarments. One of the things I tried to do before the stream was get some reference together to show you what I was working from. However, for whatever reason, anything that has like an priority overlay. So, for example, Microsoft Photos, anytime you open that, it's going to pop up over every other window until you minimize it. I also tried PureRef, and that has a priority overlay. And anything that has priority overlay, for whatever reason, doesn't show up in OBS. So I can't currently really show you the reference I'm working from. But I've got a couple of pictures of kind of an exploded view here of like the samurai armor and what's under it. I'm going to be taking some liberties with that. And then I have some photos of armor so you can see exactly how much of the cloth, what parts of the cloth, the undergarments are peeking through the armor. So primarily it's anything south of the knees, and the arms have quite a bit of fabric showing through. That's, in those areas there's less armor in order to achieve greater mobility. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm going to sculpt everything more or less as if there were no armor, and rework it as I add armor in. As I look at some of the references, it's going to be a little trickier than doing just that, because once you add in the armor, some of the cloth starts to bulge in different areas. And samurai armor is very complex. In terms of layering, and so it's very difficult to get an idea of what's what, and sometimes you get conflicting visual information, depending. So I think what I'm going to do is here, I wanted to do some putties and get some cargo pant like billowing here at the ankles, but the shin guards kind of make that nonsensical. And then there's some billowing here at the elbows occasionally. This really, I'm kind of conflicted between keeping a consistent sculpting schedule and putting in the amount of research and work that this really requires. So sometimes trying to find a middle ground it doesn't really work out the best. So right now you're just watching me look up my reference. Sorry about that. Yeah, here's an instance where it looks like a lot of the pant leg gets billowy above those shin guards, because there's only what's called a high data thigh guard in front. There's no other armor protecting the upper leg. There's nothing in the back, just that thigh guard in the front. And then the cloth goes down to the sunete, which is the shin guard, and it billows up there. So that's something we can work on with confidence. Most of the back is covered. The neck is covered. Back of the calf is a bit exposed. See, originally I was just going to sculpt the actual outfit that they wear. That pajama-looking outfit, not to be disrespectful, the robe, I should say. But a robe is one thing, and then a robe tied everywhere, every which way, at every, all these different points, and billowing in different ways and moving in different ways are two different things. So a robe and a robe with armor on it are two different things in terms of sculpting. There's some robe peeking out in the armpit area, at the elbows, the back of the forearms, in some instances. All right, we're going to do what we can. This is going to be one of those, like 2 steps back yeah, one step forward, two steps back. We're never going to get anywhere. It's a Zeno paradox. It's going to be something that we're going to have to continually revisit as we add in armor. We're going to have to revisit the clothing underneath it. All right, so let's get started. So here we are. Oh, this has really nice topology. Here we are with our samurai reference. That's not what I wanted. This isn't entirely, you can see this is not entirely symmetrical. So that's going to be an issue. All right, so we're going to demark this area as where the shin guards are going to tie. They extend beyond that point. In order to cover the knees. So actually, it should be up to there about. And then things get tied off at the waist there. Most of this is going to lay flat from the weight of the hydate. But we're going to, I think we're going to assume there's no, we're going to sculpt this as if there's no armor yet, which there is no armor yet. And then as we add in the armor, then we'll re-sculpt it to reflect the weight of the armor, the placement of the armor, how the armor is going to affect folding. All right, so let's get to it. What the? Why is shift not working? Smooth. Continue to smooth. That's not working. In fact, we're going to be making so many structural changes to this. We're going to want to use Dynamesh. Probably can't Dynamesh if you have masks. This Dynamesh process is taking a long time. I wonder if that's because it started out with so many. Oh, it had 7.2 million polys. That's not great. I wonder if this is a one-off where the first time it has to do this, it takes a long, long time. And then subsequently it's faster and easier. We can only hope. In the upper left hand corner you can see it says projecting mesh details. Oh, did it dynameshed? Okay. Let's see how long it takes a second time. Still an inordinately long time, and again, I think that's because we started with so many polygons to begin with. 124 at the very least, very most, right? Because we want to go even lower than that potentially. No, I do not. Dynamesh something with 9 million polys, and now we're turning down the Dynamesh resolution to 512, and hopefully we won't have to Dynamesh very often. I was just thinking right now, this guy looks like someone you would very much want to avoid at an eyes wide shut type party. So we're going to sculpt in the pants first and foremost, the robe pants. So we're going to get rid of some of this musculature there. Let's try clay tubes, my favorite. This is going to be the most fun part of the robes because it's going to be nice and billowy. Getting an error. It says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. What does that mean? How can you not receive enough video? If it's a bandwidth issue, say it's a bandwidth issue. Let's bulldoze with trim dynamic here a little bit. These are going to be so billowy. Let me try changing that. I'm getting some errors here. Let me try changing the bit rate. We're going for quality now instead of ultimate quality or whatever the setting is. The robe here is going to be so billowy that we don't really have to worry too much about maintaining the underlying structure of the musculature too much. These are really too many millions of polygons to, you know, smooth just isn't going to be as effective as it should be. What I'm doing now is I'm filling the object with this blue color. That way, once I'm done changing the resolution here, I can get the exact same mask that I had originally. So we're going to go into how are we going to do this? It's been a while. I guess Z remesher, right? We're going to go for half the count. So hopefully we'll get down to like 4 million polygons. Try Z remeshing again. Get down to 2 million polygons. Because right now smooth just isn't having any effect. looks like it did not. I should change that into polygroups. Anyways, there's enough delineation here that I can probably do the same type of masking easily enough. All right, 4 million polygons. Let's see how smooth works here. Smooth is working nicely. All right, zoom out a bit. Mask. Let's get these hands too. Let's get these legs. Let's make sure. Oh, we can't do Dynamesh. And there's masking. All right, let's try again. Can't see it, but the overlay is telling me ZBrush is taking a long time to respond. Do you want to quit? And I said, no, I'll wait it out. Whoa. That's weird. So when we Dynameshed, it went right back up to 9 million polygons. What if we turn down the resolution? Is it still going to go up? No. Okay. This is all very, ZBrush is quirky, and sometimes, I've been working with it for a while, but I still don't know all the quirks. Brush, clay tubes. See, this is why, even though it's been a pain up to this point, we want Dynamesh. It's because we're adding in just so much geometry here. That we're going to need the Dynamesh to reconstruct it. This should probably be down a little further. And you know what? Before I get any further with this, we're going to want to separate these legs a little bit more. with like a transpose tool move. How do I... What's transpose smart? How do I switch this to transpose? Okay, good enough. I can fix that. I can work with it and fix it. Let's data mesh. Now we're down to 480,000 pixels. I don't know what's going on there. But we're just sketching right now, so it's no big deal. From some of the pictures I've seen and some of the reference I've seen, the samurai have almost like a Hugo Boss Nazi type billowing in the legs and places. This type of billowing is fun, but also I really tend to stress over how realistic it does or doesn't look. A lot of times it will nearly coil at the bottom here. There'll be like a concentric pattern of folds. Right now I'm just trying to get the volume in properly, and you can see I'm getting some happy accidents I like this, and I'm probably going to try to build upon that in the final sculpt. I like that fold around the knee. Don't like what's going on here. Right now I'm trying to psych myself up not to fixate on this too much, because again, there's only going to be so much of this that peeks through the armor. You know, I went down a bit of a perfectionist rabbit hole with some of the mask there, and well, to be frank, you know, when you have a disease, which is on all the paperwork, I have to list that it's terminal. You become a little bit more conscientious of how long things take, and not taking too long to do things. Let me check my reference real quick here. Rather than billow out in front, it tends to, because that's where the thigh guard is, the pants seem to billow out at the back a bit more. I am very much going to try to limit this to, you know, just 2 or 4 hours worth of sculpting in terms of getting the silhouette, because it's going to be, once the armor's in, it's going to make whatever I did kind of irrelevant. Until we know exactly where the guards go, where they tie off. This is mostly guesswork. Guesswork. I've got to get to work on the book too. I keep saying that. Never happens. The book work is the least fun work. We're not going to reach the point of doing the XYZ stuff today. That's not what I wanted. All right, so in terms of shape and silhouette, I'm not entirely happy with the way it looks right through here. This whole flare in the back thing is a little bit difficult to work out. But in terms of what can be done about it now, anything I wind up doing is probably going to wind up being undone once the armor comes into play. Like I said, not happy with it, but a lot of it just won't be apparent what needs to be done until, like I said, the armor. I keep repeating myself, but I mean that's the way it is. This is the I'm least happy with this. Like that side view. Maybe if there was a little bit more droop to the billow. All right, I can't help myself. I'm gonna put in a little more wrinkles, just allay some of my concerns about how bad this looks. So obviously I should be using my own XYZ techniques here, but this is just a rough pass, again, to allay my fears about how truly awful this looks. I'll probably come back in here and clean all this out before I go any further with the actual sculpt. What? There's a bit of a Z there for you. All right, again, this is just super rough stuff to try to console myself about the silhouette here and how bad it currently looks. I think that's one of the most important things about like people in their early stages of, you know, studying to be an artist. Everything looks bad until it looks good. And this certainly doesn't look good, but I can begin to visualize its potential, whereas previously I was having a hard time doing that. So I'm going to go back as far as I can before I drew in all these lines. This is still a bit over the top. So I'm going to rein that in a little bit. I forgot to turn symmetry back on. All right, well, I'm going to put this on hold for now and do the arms. Let me check my reference, see how far I have to go. I can basically go the entire length. So there's, well, I'll just draw on the, I'll mask where we're going to go. Y, a circle. So there's actually fabric peeking up. All throughout here, all throughout the parts that I haven't masked off. And I think to get to some of these places, I'm going to want to rotate those arms out again. not again for the first time, but much like I did with the legs. So let's do that now. You know what? Let's undo some of that. In case I can't get this back the way I want it. delta are still too crazy there. All right, for our purposes of just filling out the cloth, I think that's good enough. Let's save it there. And we're just about at that halfway point. So that's good because we're just doing the legs and the arms, two things. Although here I am going back to the legs a little bit. So the reference I've seen, it's hard to make out what's armor and what's the robe underneath. It seems like in most instances there's a bit of chainmail that's part of whatever fabric is covering the sleeve, whether that's some sort of slip-on sleeve or the robe. Hard to say. Let me check the exploded view again real quick. What the hell? So yeah, it looks like it's a slip-on sleeve. So there's the robe, and then there's the slip-on sleeve, which is called the cote. Translated, it says sleeve armor. So the sleeve armor looks like it's a separate sort of fabric with chainmail, or maybe it is just chainmail. And let me look it up. So it's some sort of fabric. It doesn't look like leather or anything extremely tough. It looks like it's made for flexibility. So, but it is separate from the robe fabric. And we have some that just go up over the bicep, and some that it seems to envelop the entire shoulder. Doesn't seem as if it goes all the way around. So it looks like some of the robe is exposed on the underside of the forearm. It looks like the robe bunches up at the elbow. You know what? I'm going to go to Sketchfab and see how other people have tackled this. So the first model I'm encountering here, there's a bit of cheating. The armor just goes all the way. Their cote goes all the way around the forearm. There wouldn't even be a way to put that armor on. There's so many very good samurai models for sale, cheap, that that's really the way to go for a game developer. Just buy the art assets. The problem is there's sort of an inconsistency in style and quality. So I'm looking at another samurai. This one, the cote laces up such that you cannot see any of the robe underneath. His goes all the way to the shoulder. This is Art Station Challenge, Feudal Japan, high texture. Good looking samurai. Now I'm looking at Shogunate Warrior. There's it's hard to tell. This one, it looks like the robe is peeking all the way through from the shoulder, underneath the arm, all the way up to the forearm, and then the forearm is completely enclosed. Here we have a female samurai called Iko. And this one is so fantastic. It's kind of that chunky style. That's maybe one realism removed from like an Overwatch style, so that doesn't really help. She had no forearm armor. Here's one just called Samurai by Richard Thorogood. Oh, we've seen this one already. Under a different name, seems like. I'm trying to find samurai examples that are super realistic, but at the same time, just over the top in terms of ornamentation. So the ornamentation itself looks realistic. It's just crazy how detailed it is and how much ornamentation there is. Ooh, this one has music. All right, so this one, the forearm is completely covered and laced over. And then it's very much evident that the fabric is part of the cote because it's like stitched, like the chainmail is stitched into the fabric underneath it. And it bunches up at the elbow, and I think that's the way to go. So what I'm going to do is sculpt the fabric so that it envelops a little bit over the forearm. It billows over the forearm, and basically the fabric is going to be very much part of the sleeve armor and carry all the way up to the shoulder at the very least. And then I'll, if need be, I'll revisit as necessary as the armor gets filled in. So the one I'm looking at right now is Samurai Warlord Shogun by Zero SWAT. It's very nice. The colors are a bit washed out, and there's some issue with the normal mapping. It looks like maybe one of the channels is inverted because it gets that real weird shrink wrap look to it in places. So it's either that or maybe some issues with the specular. The modeling is good, very good, but there seems to be some issues with the texture. All right, so I've made my decision. Ooh, here's a samurai with a Asian canonical hat, like I want, by Mike Nixon. It's all right. enough messing around. Sorry that you're watching me watch stuff. Next time I'll find a way to set it up so that I broadcast the mirrors. But again, I had problems with anything that has an overlap priority. All right. The other thing I saw from one of the well, I'm going to leave that now, but some of the other models, there's so much armor here. Anything above the knee is pretty much irrelevant. They didn't really spend any time sculpting it because you can't really see it. Although I think they took some liberties with the type of armor they're using. Like in reality, I never saw like back of the thigh guard, but they had that going on, or they had some sort of like the robe had tails or something. I don't know. I'm not really happy with the shape this is taking right now, the silhouette this is taking, but it's something that and it's the sort of thing I remember when I would do like military cargo pants. The billowing in the back would drive me insane, and I'd go down a rabbit hole, and I don't want to do that, but I also want to get it right, you know. So we'll see. All right, onto the arms. We've only got a little while here. I'm not going to see this much definition through the fabric, so we're going to get rid of it. All right, so that's the area of effect we're looking at right now. And we're going to go down to deformation now and inflate, what, 3? Did that had no discernible effect. Did it even work? Did I do anything? What this is telling me is that the mesh itself is super oversized, I think. All right, I think 40 is the way to go, just because this is actually a second and third layer over the um, the robe, right? So all right, whatever. Clay tubes, my favorite. All right, so in the next stream, what we're going to do is I bought some insert meshes, some Z tools off ArtStation, samurai armor. Yep, cheating again. And after this, I'm going to go through some tutorials on how to best use those. I think the ArtStation product contained tutorials on that, so I'm going to go watch that, and that way I'm better prepared for tomorrow's stream. I screwed this up horribly. It's already looking way too muscle bound. I think I can leave this the way it is and just build up this billowy stuff here. Seems like his mask should be larger. Oh, I don't have perspective on. Even so. Well, we can always take care of that later. That's not what this work is about. It's about billowing pants and billowing sleeves. Yeah, it's funny that he's got like an 80s crop top on, or whatever you would call it. Again, this is the guy you want to stay away from, and Eyes Wide Shut party. I think the best technique for some of the billowing stuff is you sculpt it, sculpt it, sculpt it, and then you use move and pull this stuff over the top like that. Rather than pull first and then sculpt. That didn't work out. In fact, no pulling at this point, just sculpting. More clay tubes. So here I'm putting a bit of a twist. So I'm starting to make some artistic decisions here in terms of design. I should probably do the same thing with the legs. Obviously, I don't want to chunkify this too much to the point where, again, it's looking like a fantasy character from Overwatch or some such. So when the time comes, I'll make that look a little bit more organic. But right now, I think I do want to block in some stylistic choices. What I want to avoid here is making this look like a second ass. I mean, it's perfectly natural that that would happen organically, but yeah, for some reason it's reading like a second ass, and the way I'm going to combat that is to turn symmetry off. When I get to the point where I'm like really sculpting this for real, I'm going to turn symmetry off, and just the fact that it'll no longer be symmetrical will be enough to eliminate that read. But in the like I said, in the reference I've seen, Whoa, I didn't mean to turn symmetry off now. What happened? Like I said, it's got this Hugo Boss-esque jockey flair. I don't know what those are called. But you know I'm talking about, the Nazis with the uniforms, and they had this super pronounced flare off to the side of the thigh. And it seems like, owing to the armor, that sort of flare happens naturally in a lot of the samurai outfits I've seen. But not to the side, but more so to the back. It's a hard target to hit, let me tell you. Maybe if I bring some of the droopiness out to the side a little. I shouldn't say droopiness. Right now it looks droopy, but really what it's doing is it's billowing around. It's cascading over the places where the armor is tied off. Right now it's probably way over exaggerated, but everything looks bad until it looks good. Oops. Sometimes I get carried away with building up when you can get the same, not same, but you can get the a better read by subtracting, right? Because this looks like it's pushing out to the extent that this part is pushed in. Now you can get that by just continually building this up, building this up, building this up, but at a certain point you've built up too far. And you want to think about, instead of taking away from, or instead of building up that area, you might want to take away from another area to get the same, or rather better. Well, it's going to be the same visually for the most part, but better structurally. I am having flashbacks to when I did Yoshimi versus face punching robots, her pants. This just became a whole thing, whole rabbit hole that just took forever to get out of. I should go back. I should find some ZBrush files of hers and see what sort of, what the hell is happening here? Why? Oh. Let's see what sort of solution I was able to come up with in terms of billowing and droopiness and that sort of thing. Because I can foresee this becoming a thing. You know what'd be good? Is if I counterbalance this with some billowing to the front. Although, no, that won't work. I'll tell you why. If look, if there's nothing else here, that would be the right call. Taking this silhouette and doing the same thing up front. Sort of like this. Obviously, you want, you want it spread out more. But again, there's going to be armor laying on top of this portion and not on top of this portion. And there's going to be some sort of tie-off somewhere around here that's going to cause the fabric to cascade over the back. There should be anyways, from what I've seen. So this is actually, even though it looks weird now, once you have those visual cues of the armor and stuff, oh my God, what happened? I don't know what to do. This has happened before. I don't know what to do. Let's save. Has something to do with document, right? Clearing the document. Ask ZBrush. When editing my model, I get copies of it in the viewport. How can I fix this? It's a good question.
This is Joseph Trust, and welcome back to another episode of Ask ZBrush. So we had a question sent in asking, when editing my models, I get copies of it in the viewport. How can I fix this? So to start off, I just have ZBrush loaded up, and I just have the dog model here loaded in. And the question is asking about, while working on a model, you may end up getting these copies in the viewport.
Yeah, no kidding.
So to demonstrate this, let's first say I have the dog model here, and I'm just sculpting on the model, and then all of a sudden I get this copy. So sculpt on the model, and maybe I'm doing a little bit more sculpting over here, and then somehow I get another copy. And I just keep doing this, and as I'm progressing here, I end up having my dog.
Get to the answer.
Model, which I can still sculpt. And it's going to snapshot of again your model, but it's not. The first way is you come to the layer palette up here and
layer palette.
This clear button. And this will clear all those 2.5D copies of your mesh.
Thank you. That's enough. That's all you had to say. All right. So that's how you clear that nonsense. Why would that be a hotkey? Why would you want, like, I need this so immediately. I need a hotkey for this. Let's build that into ZBrush. A hotkey whereby it drops a 2D model to your workspace. Why? Why would that be a default? Who needs that? With such urgency, you need a hotkey. And it kind of implies that one 2D model wouldn't be enough. You need a hotkey for it. You got to keep dropping models incessantly until your viewport is nothing but 2D models that you can't do anything with. Sometimes, ZBrush, I wonder about you. See, here it doesn't seem too pronounced. But then you get here. I'm actually kind of happy with the angles from here to here. And then all of a sudden, it's, I don't know, it looks like Gumby legs. If I were an artist, it wouldn't take this long to flesh in, to cloth in the cloth. But I'm not an artist. I'm a game developer. So I'm going to revisit the work I did on Yoshimi and see what kind of solutions I came up with there. I'd like to look at some of the other samurais on Sketchfab, but basically anything that's not going to be immediately visible, they've just kind of thrown cheats on. So the part where the parts of the pants that get covered up by the armor are just completely straight, no wrinkles, no silhouette, just completely straight. And fair enough, because there's not going to be an opportunity where the player or anybody viewing it is going to be like looking up his skirt, unless they're trying, like me, they're trying to get an idea of how they dealt with the same problems I'm looking at. But at the same time, I can foresee wanting to use this as a beauty render in various stages. Like showing off what he looks like with just the robe and no armor. You know, I just want to be prepared for all eventualities in terms of what kind of promotional materials I want to use this for. You know, if I want DLC where he has different armor, or you know, a different robe underneath, or you know, some gameplay where he's lost his armor and he's especially vulnerable. And now he can only take like 1 or 2 hits as opposed to you know, 3 or 4. Why is this drooping upwards? What? No. So that looks a little better now that the silhouette carries all the way around. Actually, this might bunch up a bit because of the knee guards that are going to come into play here. Right now it's all kind of conjecture. I won't know exactly what I want to do until I get the armor in here. You don't want this too defined, because obviously there's a lot of loose material here if it's going to be building up down here. So, but at the same time, you do want to preserve some of the human shape underneath it. All right, that's the best I can do, just through solely imagining where the armor is. I'm going to look at some tutorials regarding the use of the insert meshes that I bought. And tomorrow I think we're going to start laying those in. This is a little disturbing in terms of all of a sudden I have renewed concerns about the proportions here. The hat is a little low. Nope. I wanted to move the hat, not the guy. All right, it's weird how much a difference that makes in terms of, you know, the perception of how many heads high he is. I mean, this is all hard surface stuff, so it can be resized, you know, without screwing anything up too badly. If I decide to reportion the... Let's just see what a bigger mask would look like. Rather, let's see what a smaller dude would look like. One, two, three, four, five, six. It's about 7 head highs, I think, which is maybe a little too heroic. Just a change in perspective makes him look a lot taller than he is. Mostly because the brim of the hat gets tipped up, as if you're like way below him. Here, not so bad. I don't know. It's the sort of thing you really need to get sorted out before you get too far, though. Certain angles, if you're beneath him looking up, he looks way too large. Other angles, it's okay. All right, one final tweak, and then we're done for the day. Again, it's going to look bad before it looks good, and I'm okay with that right now. Tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be setting in the armor, and yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Bye.